Participants, our next speaker of the second technical session is Professor H. Srikant, and he will share with us a much needed topic for the research lovers: structure of research paper. Before inviting the man of tremendous knowledge and academic endeavor, may I have the privilege to share a few words about Professor H. Srikant to our esteemed participants. Professor H. Srikant is professor in the Department of Political Science, Northeastern Hill University, Shillong. He was awarded UGC Associateship in the year 1994, Shastri Indo-Canadian Faculty Research Fellowship in the year 2005, Associateship at Indian Institute of Advanced Studies, Shimla, from 2009 to 2011. His research areas include political theory, political economy, ethnicity, indigenous, and border studies. His major research projects are fencing the Indo-Myanmar border, problems and perceptions of the Kukis in More and Thamu, a major project sponsored by ASEAN Study Center, submitted in 2018. And another one is implementation of border area development program in Garo Hills, Meghalaya, a minor project sponsored by ICSSR NERC, submitted in the year 2019. He authored a book entitled Indigenous Peoples in Liberal Democratic States, Conflict and Reconciliation in Canada and India, Bennu Institute, Boulder, in the year 2010, and edited two books, namely Ethnicity and Political Economy in Northeast India and Vision for Meghalaya on and Beyond Inner Line Permit. Besides this, he has published a large number of research papers in many reputed national and international journals. He has so far supervised 4 doctoral theses. And so, without wasting a fringe of time, I would like to invite Professor H. Srikant in this online workshop to deliver his talk. Sir, platform is yours.
Let me tell you what I want to do, or what I will be trying to do. See, all of you have done research, I think, or you must be doing a PhD in one or the other place. So I'm not going to talk about how to do PhD, how to do research. Let me tell you, in all those who want to do PhD, you have a research methodology course. And you can do that kind of work. You will be in that research methodology course, you will be studying all these basic things like a collection of data, quantitative methods, qualitative methods, then analytical methods, SPSS, all these things. Yeah, all of us do it. So I don't want to be repetitive. To me, the most important thing is, yes, you have done research, or a thing, and you know how to collect data, how to do this one, compile it, and even do something like PhD. But afterwards, what do you do? Afterwards, what do you do? You know, many of our PhD dissertations or MPhil dissertation get confined to our libraries. In the dark rooms of our library, it gets confined. And very few people are able to publish it. So the many of our research works which are read by a very few people, and after you get PhD awarded, I think most of the time that becomes the end, and hardly people publish it. But now that the problem is that we have now entered a kind of era where unless we publish, we cannot progress. I know many of my teachers, very good teachers, They did not publish, but they had great, tremendous influence on their students, and we still remember them. But now you cannot be just a teacher. You are expected to be not only a researcher, a research guide, you should also be an author. You should publish. Okay. So here, there was a time when there were great scholars in social sciences like Bipin Chandra, A.R. Desai, Rajni Parmedar, Rajni Kothari, and all that. They have written extensively. They have written extensively, but out of love for writing. They wanted to convey. They were inspired by different ideological outlooks. Some may be Gandhian, some may be Marxist, some may be follower of JP or something. But out of a love for conveying their understanding, they wrote extensively. And there are also people who didn't write. There were great teachers like Professor Randhir Singh, who maybe many of you know. He wrote very little, but he is considered as a great scholar. But now we have come to a situation where it is not enough to be just a teacher. Being a good teacher is not enough. You are also expected to write. And this becomes compulsion also to make your career. Because they are not just seeing whether you have MPhil degree or PhD degree. Apart from that, they will ask you how many publications you have. Where did you publish it? Whether these publications are worthy or not. So these kind of things. Now all that, whether it's good or bad, I am not entering to that discussion. But there is this argument that yes, you should be able to show that you are writing something. It is only on that basis I assess you. Okay, teaching is such a private affair. What happens in the classroom is something known only to the students who listen to you. And there is no way to know whether you are a good teacher or a bad teacher. So maybe for that reason that we say, yeah, teaching is all right, but what is that you have written? So what you write and what you publish becomes a very important criteria for you to get into teaching profession or research profession or even for your future promotions. Keeping that in mind, I will be focusing on how to write. Okay, fine, you have collected so much material, you have written thesis and all that, but how do you publish? How do you go about writing so that it can be published either in the form of a book or in the form of a book chapter or in the form of a journal articles? I know that in recent times, earlier we used to publish in any kind of form, but these people are now saying, no, it should be published in standard journals. Okay, standard journals. So it is not so easy that you publish in a standard journal immediately. It takes a long time, I think. But that is something which you learn only when you start writing. Okay, so it is keeping that in mind that what I will be taking it. It is based on my own experience, not just as a teacher. I edited our university journal, the Nehru Journal, for 5 years. I have experience of writing some 16 articles in EPW and participated in their workshop on writing. So also I have been reviewing with different kinds of manuscripts from different publishers. So it is based on this experience that I get some idea as to how I will be focusing on writing, not so much on your research kind of things. Maybe there is some other occasion where I talk about that research methods, but in this talk, I will focus only on the writing part. So I will be giving you some of the important tips as to how to go about writing. So the very first thing that you need to understand in writing is to understand the structure of a research article or an article which you seek to publish in any journal. So this is what will be there in any kind of journal. The main things. Sometimes there may be difference based on the disciplines. There may be little changes in the structure of the research article that you send for publication, but more or less all research articles have this structure. So always there will be what you say a title page. So all journal articles start with a title, followed by an abstract. Then you have introduction. And then after introduction, there will be development of the theme. Development of the theme, where you write so many things based on all that you have collected or experimented and came out with. All those things will come. And at the end, you have the conclusions. Conclusion at this point. Then added to that, this is basically the textual part of any article. Added to this textual part is you are thinking there is a technical, because this academic writing, this what you write for journal or books, academic books, they are academic articles. They are not like stories or novels or even journal, what you can say, the journalistic articles. These are academic articles. So all academic articles should have a certain format where everything that you claim should be, you should be able to say where from you learned. So that's why in all journal articles you have either endnotes or footnotes. You have to give endnotes and footnotes. Then at the end there will be what you say, the references. Say in case of articles, we call it references. Whether if you are writing a book, you can make it say bibliography. Okay. So if you are writing a book, there may be some other additions also, like appendices and all that. You can have it. So this is the thing. But I will be trying to focus. Though these are the initial things which most of you who have attempted to write or already published already know these basic things about the structure of a research article that you seek to publish in a journal, or you want to bring it out as a book chapter. What I will be trying to tell now is elaborate on each of these things so that you get to know the hints as to how you have to think about each of these. I start with the very first one. Now, what is the first one thing that you look at when you look at articles? Obviously, the title. Title is the first thing that reader reads, or even the the publisher or the editor who wants to consider your publication, the first thing that the person reads is the title. Okay, so this title is very important, and it should attract readers' attention. It should attract the attention of the reader or editor of the book or the journal. I think so. Here, if the title itself is lousy, it doesn't attract. Yeah, it is confusing. I think then the editor loses interest in it. So you should think of giving an appropriate title. This title that we consider to give always should give the gist of the research. Gist of the research in a nutshell. You are writing on whatever may be the topic. I do not know on what topic you want to write. But whatever is the topic that you want to write, you should be able to bring out in the form of the title. The title should be able to give a gist of the things which is going to be the content of your paper. So generally, what is that articles we are trying to do? We are trying to establish relationships. Sometimes you want to try to understand the relationship between what you can say the ethnicity and the government policies, or gender and class, or rural development and bureaucracy, or education and the scheduled castes in a particular region. So whatever it be, and whatever it is, and that what I cannot fathom what kind of subjects you are thinking of writing, but you know it. You know it, and you must understand what is the essence that you want to convey in, and how do you convey it in your title. Okay, title, and you have to break your head over appropriate titles. Appropriate titles, I think. So these titles can be sometimes in a very simple form, which establishes the relationship between 2 or 3 aspects. I think which are fundamental in your paper. For example, there are things which I wrote in Economic and Political Weekly. Say the first article of almost the first article of mine published was on Northeast was militancy and identity politics in Assam. Now you see there are 3 elements. There is a militancy, there is identity politics, and Assam. So you are seeing a relationship between militancy and identity politics in the context of Assam. So it is a kind of a simple relational title. And you have there is such titles, and another one which I wrote, an elaborate rejoinder to my criticism of my another paper, which I tell you in course of time. That is, I titled it as Marxism, Radical Feminism, and Homosexuality. So it is very clear that I am trying to take 3 things and try to understand the relationship. There is Marxism, there is radical feminism, and homosexuality, and all these 3 interrelationships I am bringing it out in this paper, in the paper. So I am giving that particular title. So also another recent article on Look-East policy. There I said Look-East policy, sub-regional connectivity, and Northeast India. So you are trying to understand, link these 3 things. So that's why you give that title. So this kind of titles you can think of depending on what is the subject that you are trying to on what you are trying to write, and it should come out effectively. Okay. So here, but there can be, these are the general simple titles, but sometimes you can be very imaginative. You can be imaginative in your titles. You know, one of the important paper, the first paper of mine in EPW, which attracted attention of so many people, and you can see that even now, so there will be so many people criticizing me for that paper. So the paper, I titled it as in a form of statement. Natural is not always rational. See, this is a statement, it is a sentence. Natural is not always rational. And this is something which attracted more attention of the readers than my ordinary kind of papers with ordinary titles. Similarly, there are certain titles where I say another thing again from EPW. No shortcuts to Dalit liberation. This is the thing, no shortcuts to Dalit liberation. And I reviewed a book on Telangana where the person calls himself biased, he recognizes. So that review, this one I called it as between balance and bias. So also there is another one where I went with the question, that is on ethnic militancy, whom to blame. There is a question mark there. Okay, you can think of, there can be very different kinds of innovative methods of giving a title. Giving a title for your article or book. So you have to see what is that which attracts. So you are not going for title for sake of title. Okay, the title should be appropriate. It should reflect the essence of what you are going to write. And this title, I tell you, it should not be too long and it should not be too short. You know, there is, I know I'm a South Indian, there is one movie which came, a Tamil movie, it is called I, just I. Its title itself is I, only one, I, letter, English letter I. So you cannot give such a kind of so small a thing, title for a journal articles. So also you cannot give too long a title which you find it for films, no? Jab Jab Fool Kilta Hai. That kind of things, many romantic things you give, that you cannot appropriate. You have to see what is appropriate, and it should not be too long, it should not be too short. And at the same time, don't give deceptive titles. You know, many times we give a very deceptive titles. There will be books, you will say, politics in India. And you think, oh, they are talking about Indian politics. But when you refer, there will be subtitle. A study of Panchayat Raj in a particular village in a particular state. So they are deceptive titles. We should not do that. So you have to think the kind of titles appropriate and you do that. Generally, though, title comes first in the article. When you are writing, you don't start with a title and then write. No. Actually, the title you write at the end. You know, you write, you have some idea about that tentative title, you can have it, that is okay. But what exactly should be the title at the end? For that, you have to write the entire article, see it again and again, and see on that basis come out with the most appropriate title. Okay, this is what I would say about the title. Then below the title, you will find an abstract. This abstract is another important thing which you find in many journal articles. After reading the title, the first thing that you would like to see is, oh, let me see what is the content of this article. You can't read the entire article. That's why the editor first see the abstract. They want you to write an abstract. Okay, when you are writing an abstract for participation in a seminar, then you can write for 1 or 2 pages also. It doesn't matter. But when you are writing for a journal article, that journal article, they will specify.
Hello. Sir, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Sir, myself, Dr. Gulab Nandi, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. You shared your PPT in my email. So should I share in screen when you are going to present?
No, only problem is that if there is any kind of disturbance only, then you do it. Otherwise, yes, the PPT is a deviation.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
You can send it to all of them.
Okay, sure, sir. Sure.
You can share it to all of them.
Okay.
In case I am not audible, also you can share it.
Okay, sir.
Otherwise, what happens? These PPTs are deviation. People go on writing instead of listening.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you share it with all of them immediately after. Okay.
Okay, sir. So, sure, sir.
Okay. Now I'm audible, no? So
yes,
now
audible.
Yeah. So now when it comes to journal articles, what happens? They specify you can write only 100 words or 150 words. I tell you, you have to stick to that. You have to stick to that. Your article may be 15 pages, 20 pages, 30 pages. It doesn't matter. All that essence of your article, you should be able to write in the 100 or 150 words. Okay, that is it is not an easy task. It's a very difficult task to put so much of what you have written in just one paragraph. Just one paragraph in 100 or 150 words. So within this 150 words or so, this abstract should help the editor or anybody to judge what is the kind of paper, what is the content going to be its content, whether it should be we should read it or not, whether it should it is of relevance to us or not. All that you will be, the editor or the reader will guess based on that one para that you are showing it as abstract. So this one abstract is a kind of miniature version of the paper. It is a miniature version of the paper, and also this should be written not in the beginning but at the end. Yes, for a seminar paper, when you send abstract, you write the first abstract, send it to them. When it is approved, then you write. You start writing. That is okay. Sometimes what happens, you give one abstract, but when you start writing, you write completely on a different topic. So there is no link between abstract and what you are going to write afterwards. So, but when you write a journal article, you cannot do that. The journal article, when you write, first you write the entire thing, and write, think of a title, and then write an abstract. Write an abstract thing. So this is the miniature of the paper. So unless you have the full paper, you cannot even write an abstract. And it should be written, that's why I said last. So when you are very clear about it, what all you are going to write, what is going to be the content of your paper, if you are only when you are clear, then you think of how you can put it the essence in 150 words or so. And what is this abstract should contain? The abstract should have a it is a statement of topic on any issue under discussion. Whatever you topic you say, what is the statement? What is the problem that you are discussing? That you should be able to tell in that abstract. Why that problem is so important that you need to study. So that is something which should come out. Yeah, this is very important because I think you should be able to explain that topic, and you should also give a description. How are you going to collect the data, or how do you think, or in what way you are coming out with the data or information? What is the source? You should be able to convey that. And within that, you should also be able to give your theoretical or methodological perspective. How are you going to look at it? I'm going to look at it from a Dalit point of view, or from a feminist point of view, or a postmodern point of view, or a Marxist point of view, whatever it is in sciences and others, which has different theories, different scientists. I am looking at it from this perspective and looking at this problem. And that is something which you can indicate in that. And at the end, a little thing about what is that going to be your conclusion. You will not elaborate it. You will not elaborate it, but you may indicate what is the going to be there in this the conclusion of your paper in one sentence or two, where you are telling this paper is going to establish the link between these two aspects, or this try to refute the thesis put forward by some other writers, or it will establish what others have already said, whatever it is. And that small indication we should be able to keep. So when you write abstract, be very clear. You have to, writing abstract is not so easy. So because the editors, most of them don't go into your paper unless they are satisfied with the abstract. So you should write, rewrite, and rewrite again and again, so that you come to the position, yes, I am satisfied now, that my abstract is able to explain everything that is there in the this paper. And only when you come to the conclusion, then that abstract you can say, yeah, I will send it. So that is the abstract part of it. Then comes to introduction. So once you see the title, once you see the abstract, then the first part that we see, okay, yeah, the title is okay, interesting. The abstract also sounds interesting. Let me read little. And in this, they first read little of that introduction. And if only that introduction is interesting to them, they will go ahead. They will go ahead. Otherwise, they will throw that paper somewhere else. We are teachers. We are teachers, and out of fear of teacher, or out of consideration for attendance, people sit in our class for 1 hour. But when it comes to our paper, we write for anonymous people whom we don't even see. So you cannot force them to read. Oh, I'm so and so, read my paper. You cannot compel them. They read if it is attractive, if it is interesting to them. So it is your in your own interest, you have to make it that introduction very interesting. Everything interesting. This is a very important thing. because in all these kind of things, journal articles, you have an introduction, and that introduction should be really, it is a kind of hook through which you attract the attention of a reader or an editor. Editor. Hence, great importance has to be given to this introduction. This is sometimes it is a longer version of abstract, but always not so. It is not a just extension of the abstract. Yes, it contains certain aspects of abstract, but the abstract may indicate little about conclusion. But you know, in introduction, there should not be conclusion. Many of us make this mistake that when they write introduction, at that time itself they conclude. If in introduction itself is you are concluding it, why should I read it? Why should I read it? The rest of paper. So introduction is like an opening. Opening of a thing where you see many of the films. Introduction starts in such a way that it creates anxiety, it creates curiosity in the minds of the readers. Hey, this is there you are telling that I am trying to explore a very important aspect which others have not looked into. This is important for these reasons. I am trying to look at all these things in this. And how I am going to talk about it, you may tell little. But I tell you, you should not reveal everything. Introduction and conclusion are not same. In introduction, the intention is to rouse the curiosity of the reader so that they will be compelled to read. You are keeping a suspense. You are only telling, this is a very important topic because of these reasons. I am going to study something which others have not studied, or I am going to prove that something that others said is wrong, or something I am trying to establish that that theory is not applicable here, whatever it is, on the basis of this and that. But you will not tell the conclusion. You will not tell. I will only look into that. I am looking at it, but I will not conclude it. So what it says is that what is that it should have a clear statement of the problem. It should have a statement of the purpose and scope. Why is it that you are doing it? What is the scope? Are you covering the whole of India? Are you covering one state or a couple of states, or just a particular villages? Whatever it is, you should be able to say. Or you are going to inquire particular communities. Whatever it is, you should be able to say little, and description of the data. What is that kind of data that you have collected, how you collected, and all that. Sometimes in the introduction itself, you can give a short review of literature, a very short review of literature. See, in a book, if you are writing, in a thesis, you are doing it, review of literature can be one full chapter. But that is something which cannot be in an article. In an article, you know, the very important thing in any journal article is they fix the number of pages or number of words. They will tell you have to write in 2,000 words or 3,500 words or 5,000 words, and you have to stick to that. So in the introduction, if at all you are using the review thing, the essential parts you have to take it and then say whether you are going ahead with that existing literature or you are refuting them. That you can indicate it, saying this is what is said, but I do consider it differently. But I do think that this is applicable even here in spite of these and that conditions. You can do that. But whether it is necessary or not, it depends. It depends on the topic that you choose or on this thing. There is no thing that all of you should write. Sometimes it can be shifted afterwards. You may not include it in introduction, but subsequently after introduction, you may write a short 1 or 2 paras on summary of the review of existing literature. But that is whether important or not, you discuss, you think about it based on your own topic. Then the next thing that you are going to say is, I am going to discuss these subsequently. You are not going to say what you are going to say. You only say that I will discuss these aspects subsequently. That is what. You know, it is very important thing. If you are writing for a book or this one and others, introduction cannot be very long. Introduction should always be maybe sometimes it can be just 1 para, or it can go for 2-3 paras and others. It can't be longer than that. If you make introduction too big, then it will not. Introduction should be short. Definitely, it can go for 1 or 2 pages, depending on the kind of thing, but not too long. This is another indication that I'm giving it to you. So the purpose of this introduction is to create curiosity, to convince the people that this is a worth reading, this is necessary to read, and you are going to say something substantial. So please go on. Please go on. This is what you wait. Then comes the development. The development of the theme. So whatever you are trying to say, I want to establish a relationship between gender and caste in a South Indian village, or I want to show the relationship between ethnicity and conflict in a particular religion, or I want to show the relationship between education and employment prospects among the scheduled castes here. Whatever it is, then the most important thing you are going to explain is all that you have studied so far. You collected so much of material. Your teachers have taught you how to collect the data. All that thing, quantitative methods, qualitative methods, or case study methods, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You do, depending on that. Now, so much of data you have collected. And that data, you should be able to put it and argue point after point. You know, it is a thing in this development, you are going from very simple things to complex things. You are trying to establish relations. You are trying to make, in the thesis itself, you have told, these are my objectives. Keeping those objectives, 3 or 4, whatever is the number of objectives, you are developing the theme. You are developing the theme that these tribals of Northeast is different from the tribals of the rest of India. Or the tribal woman is different in her approach when it compared to the upper caste women. Whatever it is, whatever you are telling it, or the results of the tribal people here is better than the tribals of South India, or so. Whatever it is, you are using the data. That data may be quantitative, qualitative, and all that. Now you should be able to bring it out. So after this one, systematically and effectively, you will develop the theme. So for each aspect, you give a subtitle. And in that subtitle, what is essential for that you will discuss it and write it. And afterwards, you link it to the next subtitle, next theme, and give a subtitle to that. Then you extend it. Then followed by another. So you are linking logically. You are linking logically a theme after theme. And then you are showing, proving that all that through your data. Maybe that data you can put it in a form of tables or in the form of graphs or in the form of a pie diagram. It all depends on. Sometimes you may not have all that. It may be textual, fine. But you are logically building up that argument and showing. See, on the basis of this, I have said that I conclude. So you said this is the data that I have. On that basis, I conclude that this is so and so. And followed by another theme. This is that I have created. So this is the experiment that I have done. And this, on the basis of this experiment, I got these results, and this is what it is. So afterwards, I did another experiment. That is the result, and you are linking on that. See, this is the content. This one is the what you say, the development of the theme. It should be methodic and systematic. I tell you, most of our people, when we write, we have data, but we don't organize the data properly. We don't know where to tell what. You give one heading, and in that you write some other theme. And in some other heading, you bring back the one which you have already rewritten. You go on telling the same thing again and again. No. You have to say, divide it into different subsections, and each subsection caters to a particular thing. In that subsection, yeah, you may have one para, two para, three para, depending on that. But within that, you have to tell all that you want to say about that only there, and then link it to the other subsection. So logically, each subsection you can think will bring out some aspect of it, then move to the other, then it leads to another. So very important thing in that is linking. Linking is very important things. Many times when we write, there is no link between one section and another section, between one para and another para, between one sentence and the next sentence. This is there should be a logical culmination. So you are methodically proving one after another, and at the end of the thing, yes, on the basis of the data that I collected from these quantitative methods or the experimental method or through qualitative method, I am coming to, I am arriving at this kind of opinion. So you are coming, so you are logically developing that argument when you are writing it. So that is what goes into the theme, the content. But that content is long. That content will be long where you are establishing this. But that content, people read it if only they are logically built. So if it is repetitive, if it is the proper connections are not there and others, people lose interest in it, they will throw it away. So that is what you need to take it, think. And you know, many times in thesis you write so many pages, but in a journal article there is a limitation of the number of words. So that's why you have to see how I can summarize. How I can summarize the whole data. If you go on giving tables after tables, graphs after graphs, they will not be able to produce that. Printing is very difficult task. You give maps after maps. No, it is not possible. So you have to use be very choosy. Make a concise tables, make concise graphs, or use appropriate maps, and then logically argue your case to arrive at your conclusions about what you are trying to do. So this is the content. It is here your work comes out. Then it is followed by what I say. It is at the end conclusions. So conclusion, you see this conclusion. You see, this is what we do most of the times when we ourselves survey. So when we are doing survey of literature or any topic, first we see the title and bring them. Then we see this one. What is that? Abstract. We read it. Then, if it is interesting, we read the introduction. But before reading the content of the paper, sometimes we will come to the conclusion, because sometimes we will not have time. Somehow I think to read everything. So we come to the conclusion and read. And after conclusion, we may sometimes go, if it is interesting, we'll come to the subject matter. So this conclusion is also a very, very important component of journal articles. You know, in introduction, you created curiosity. You roused the curiosity of people, telling that I have taken up such a topic. I am trying to find out the causes for that. These are my questions, and this is how I am going to do all that. You have told. And now when you write conclusion, you should be able to answer to all questions that you raised in the introduction. Many times what happens, one thing, there is no link between introduction and conclusion. We write some introduction and end somewhere else. No, that cannot go on. A good paper, there should be appropriate link between the introduction and the conclusion. You should be able to answer all the questions that you raised in introduction, all that curiosity that you have aroused, and that curiosity now you have to satisfy your readers. Just one. So here, this introduction, this one is very important. In the conclusion, you are creating, it is a kind of satisfaction that you have to give at the end. Yes, when you read, now just as you rouse the curiosity, now introduction, you satisfy that curiosity. You satisfy, you told many things earlier, but at the end, how you tell? I am a South Indian. This one, we have all kinds of feasts. We eat many things. But at the end, we should have a curd rice with pickle. Curd rice with pickle is very important. And only when we eat that curd rice with pickle, then only we get satisfied. Then only the food is this one, that lunch, we say, oh, very great. Till that is given. So also, conclusion is like that, curd rice for South Indian, where you are explaining all that is fine. You told many things, but now all that you have explained or roused, I am satisfying you. I am giving you the explanation. Then, that is what makes you. When you read that conclusion, afterwards, you will say, people should say, Maza aaya. Oh, great. Oh, very nice. Very interesting. So that kind of feeling you have to create, that I have found something new. Yeah, I found that it's satisfying, or it should raise curiosity, or it should raise emotions, as many films do it. So you, at the end of the film, all that tension that you created in the beginning, that should get resolved in this. Then you say, oh, I am satisfied. And so also when you write academic academic writing article, also when you write, the conclusion should satisfy. It should be an interesting one. So that is why you have to take great care about conclusion also. Just as you take great care in the case of introduction, you should also see to it that you write conclusion effectively and see that conclusion and introduction become complementary to each other. So this is what, in a nutshell, I talk about the conclusion. But this is all the textual part. The textual part of any research article or any academic article that you want to publish. But the importance of academic is that it is not like, as I told you, not a novel or a short story or a poem or even a newspaper article. In academic articles, it is necessary that whatever you claim, you should be able to say, how did you arrive at this conclusion? Or how do you say that? So then you should be able to say, I have read this book, I have read that article, it is what is said in this meeting, or it is what is written in that official document, or it is what is said in a new TV interview. See, all that you should be able to show it in your endnotes or footnotes. This is very important thing. So this is a very technical aspect of it, which sometimes we don't care. But I tell you, many times when we do not give the substantial evidence on that technical grounds, our paper will be rejected. So you need to know whatever you write in an academic article, you should be able to give appropriate references or notes. So in these notes, you are thinking, sometimes I tell you, notes and references go together, or sometimes it can be separate. It all depends on the journal. Each journal has a particular format which they specify, and you have to follow it. There is no way. So you understand what is the format that the journal wants, and depending on that, you write. So if a journal says footnotes, you have to have footnotes. If they say endnotes, endnotes. If they say notes and references should be together, it should be like that. If they say they are separate, you should separate. I tell you, we cannot choose. It is something which they have given, and you have to follow that. So you should understand the policy of the journal, see their style sheet and write according to that. That style sheet may differ from journal to journal, and there is no way that you can escape. So, but when you say endnotes or footnotes, I tell you, in these endnotes or footnotes, you may say, oh, this is what this particular author write, or it is written in this book or official documents, you can tell, or you can explain little more also. Because all things writing it in the text may be distraction. So you may give little more information about it in the notes or footnotes. Sometimes you may say, no, of course these people tell, but there are different other people who may tell other things. So you may write short the things, so that footnotes should not be too long. Sometimes they make it so big that it is as big as a text. It should not be as small as possible. They should be there. It is just what you cannot tell in the text, little elaboration of it, you can put it in the notes or the footnotes. So then what is the format of that? You see your style sheet of the journal. Okay, this is what I say. Then sometimes, as I told you, while writing notes itself, you can give a reference where you give all the details. Or sometimes you give reference separately. When you say reference, you should be, the reference includes all these things: name of the author, name of the book, name of or the book chapter, or name of the journal article, or the name of the edited volume, or the title of that edited volume, or the journal, or the name of the journal, issue, volume number, year, date, who are the publishers. All these details will be there, and these details are to be put in a particular format. So there are different kinds of methods. So there is no one particular method, and there is, as you say, APS format, Chicago manual, there are different other things are there, and each of them they go on developing it. So whatever is the one which is prescribed to you, you should follow it meticulously. You cannot say one I give in Chicago manual and the other one I give it in APA format. No, you can't do that. There should be consistency, there should be uniformity in the way that you give, and you just have to follow what they have told. I tell you, it is a very irritating and laborious process, but there is no way. You have to follow that. So that is what references or this one is all about. This one, you can give that references. These are technical aspects, but these technical aspects are also very essential for any kind of journal articles. How much time I can take? I can take another 5 minutes.
Okay, sir, you can take another 5 minutes. Then after this, there will be interactive session.
Okay. Then I will just, this is what I will tell you. And then I will give you certain things. How, when you write articles, what is the kind of process involved in journals generally? You know, there are different kinds of journals. There are some substandard journals. So there you write any trash that will be published. They will take money from you and publish it. So such kind of journals are there. They don't care what you write. They don't edit. They don't ask you to edit also, or they only take money and publish it. I am not talking about that journal. Sometimes my own students do that kind of job. But I tell you, such kind of journal has no value. So you have to think of a journal which is reasonably good. All cannot write in a world-class journal at a time. In the beginning itself, it is a process which we follow and gradually develop. I think so, but we have to be we have to know what is the standard method that is followed in the journals. How to do that? If it is a good journal, what do? You submit a journal, submit that article to the journal, the manuscript for the journal, and the first editor sees, and he finds it. If it is interesting, and if that editor is very powerful, he will say, yes, at the first goal itself, he will say, yes, I am including it. But if he thinks that, okay, I do not know about the subject deeply, let me refer it to some experts. So he will send it to referees. He will send it to referees, and that referees will give the opinion. So the referees may say, oh, it is very good, publish it. Or the referees say it is a trash, don't publish it. Or referees may suggest, oh, it has something good, but something has to be changed, updated, ask him to do it. So when it will come back to the editor accordingly decides. If he thinks that it has a potentiality, this one, if he is also convinced that it is good, he will publish it. Or if he says it is to be reviewed, I think he will send it to them and say, this is what the reviewer said, so improve it and develop it and send us the revised version. And then on that, the author should work on it. Author should work on that. Author, sometimes they make suggestions. Sometimes you may accept the suggestions and you can change it. Sometimes you may not like it. You may say, no, 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 I don't accept the reviewer because of these following reasons. Then you can try to convince the editor saying that you are right, but you can argue that case and said, yes, I have done these changes according to that, but I'm not doing this because of this reason. You can argue if and send it to the editor. And if the editor accepts it, then it will be published. So these are the kind of things, the publications. At times it takes long time. It is not going to be easy. It takes months together, and you should be ready to wait for that. This is what the academics is. So then I will just tell you certain things because of which the article gets rejected. This is the kind of thing. I tell you, all of us go through this process of rejection. I may have today some 60 articles of mine published. It is true, but it doesn't mean that my articles are not rejected. Everybody goes through the process of rejection, and sometimes even today, if I write something, it can be rejected. So that is not a thing. But generally, we get to say if somebody rejects it, we make we sometimes get dejected and stop writing, or sometimes we start scolding them. Oh, this man is like that. That creature is like that. They rejected me deliberately and all that. It is not so. If something is rejected, there must be causes for that. You should understand what the cause is and try to overcome that. Okay? So what will be the general reasons for which I just outline some of the reasons, and with that I stop it and leave it to you for discussion. One is that we don't follow the structure. So every journal has a particular kind of structure, or particular kind of standard, or particular kind of language, this one, which we have to follow. And if we don't follow it, so we write like a journalist, what is that, a journalistic way, and want that it should be published. They say no. What you write may be all right for a newspaper, but you cannot write it for our journal. Our journal has a different structure, and you have to understand that. So you have to know the structure. So whenever you are sending an article to anybody, you first understand what is that journal, what kind of structure they follow, what kind of articles they publish, and all that. You see that and understand it, and then do it. So you have to know the structure of that. Then the other thing for which most of the articles get rejected is there is a plagiarism. There is nothing original. You only took from 3-4 articles and gave them as if it is your article. So you lifted the things from different people. I know how some of my articles are reproduced just by changing the title and publishing it. Sometimes some journals don't look and publish it. But plagiarism is a very dangerous thing. You may lose your job if you or if the authorities come to know that you plagiarized. So also the editors, now there are so many tools. So it is very easy to know that you have plagiarized. Now I am editing one volume for Sage, and I sent everything and the Sage comes out and tells 2 of your articles are already published in some form in some journals or some books. I didn't know, but they could know because they have software. So if you are plagiarizing it, copying it, and sending it, this one, it will be outright rejected. Or sometimes there is no originality in your paper. What you are telling, that everybody is telling, there is nothing new about what you are telling. So why do they do that? So they think, oh, there is nothing original in your paper. So that is also one of the reasons. Then the other thing for which most of articles in India, our articles get rejected is because of language problems. Our problem is that our language, mother tongue is one, but we have to write it in English. English is not our mother tongue. And we think in our own mother tongue and we write in English, in which we are not masters. So we commit a lot of language errors. Language errors, it is not only just it is because of English, even the problems of connections and other things, different kinds of problems we face, not only grammatical things, connections and all that. So we make so many errors. Those errors are so irritating to the editors. If there are one or two errors, they want to correct your language, fine. But if there are so many hundreds, even if the content is good, if they have to correct your English, they can't. So it will be outrightly rejected. So that is also the thing which we have to. I know that it is a problem, language is a problem, but there is no way we don't have our own journals in our own languages. We have to write it in English. So we should master this language. Or we have to take the help of those who know the language and get it corrected by them. Of course, now there are some tools have come which the institutions can provide, like a Grammarly, Pro Writing Aid, such things. So whatever you write, you feed it, it will show all the mistakes that you are committed, and you can work on that. So before sending it, you yourself can check and send it to them. That is one you can think of. Then the other mistakes is we don't follow the journal rules. As I told you, the journal has a particular rule. If they say the abstract should be in 90 words, it should be in 90 words. If you write 200 words, they will reject it. If they say this should be the how end notes or footnotes have to be written, you have to write it. If they say in 4,000 words, you have to write it. If you give 10,000, it will be rejected. So you should know that. So these are the things. And sometimes sciences, there is no problem. There is no ideology involved. They only see on the basis of your nature of the work, experimentation, process, and other things, they will publish it. But if it comes to social sciences and humanities, journals also have their own ideologies. Their own perspectives or biases. So you have to understand. That's why you have to know to which kind of journal you are sending it. So what is their ideological perspective and others? If you are sending a neoclassical paper to a Marxist-oriented journal, they will reject it. Or you send this one, a purely feminist approach to a journal with a very conservative outlook, they will reject it. So you have to know, it is not sending any paper. You should know what is that ideology or the perspective of the journal and see which is appropriate and then send it. I will stop it here, and now you can interact. I will also see some of the comments. You can put it in the comments section, or you have any queries, you can ask me. To the extent I have the ability, I will answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your excellent deliberation, as always. Sir, actually, in chat box, there are 15 numbers of questions. So
you better read it out with the most important thing.
Okay, sir. I am reading the questions. First one, Mega Punia actually asked the question: can we use question or exclamation marks in our titles?
You can. But generally, what happens in a newspaper article or in a literary things, you can. But generally, most unlikely in most of the academic things, we avoid it. But as I told you, I myself use it. I used the question mark. So I used a statement kind of thing. But it should be very appropriate and it should be very relevant. Yeah, it is not just for a decoration purpose that you have to use it. Yeah, I think you have to use it if it is if it conveys a very important thing. You can use it. So, but you have to be very choosy. Don't use it always. Yes, for literary things you can use all kinds of things, but in academic article you have to see whether it is really relevant, whether it makes sense. Nothing wrong in using it, but decide whether it is appropriate. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Another
Yeah.
question from Bikramjit Dhar. He asked, as you said, sir, one cannot write an abstract without writing the full paper. But in general, it is always in practice to write the abstract first, then the paper. What should we do?
No, this is what there is a difference between writing abstract for a seminar. Okay, in that kind of thing, you definitely write the first abstract you send. You think about it a little, what you want to write it on that, and you send an abstract. And when it is approved, afterwards you will write. But that is not the way that you do it when you send it to the journal. You understand? When you send it to the journal, already the article should be written. Article is written and afterwards you break your head over abstract and then write an appropriate abstract. So you have to see the difference between writing an abstract for a seminar and writing an abstract for a journal. So you can also see many times when you write for seminar, somebody asks you, send abstract, you write something. But afterwards, when you sit over it, you get new ideas. And you write something completely different, which has very little to do with abstract. That cannot happen when you are sending a journal article to journal. So that abstract is something which should carry the essence of what you have already written. It should have, it cannot be before that. Yes, for your own purpose, clarity purpose, you may say, yeah, roughly I am going to talk about these things. That you may have a framework of what you are going to do it. But that is not an abstract which is binding. Okay, that is for your own clarity. But you may change it. Ultimately, after writing, you write that abstract so that you send it in the manner in which the journal expects you to write. Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay,
Next
thank you,
question
sir,
is,
for your explanation.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Next question is from Dr. Parveen Sultana. The question is, what sentence would be better? This paper tries to establish, or through this paper, I try to establish.
Generally, what happens in social sciences is we use passive voice. Passive voice is something considered as a standard method of expressing it. But there is no hard and fast rules. These days, many of these people, feminists and others, are contesting this idea of writing in a passive voice. They are openly telling that, why do you say it is written? Why don't you say I write? So there, some of them are trying to say that I can use it in active voice. Active voice. So in the when it is in case of feminist studies or Dalit studies and such narratives, the things they use first person. They are using first person and say they are using I. But even to this day, the dominant is that we write in passive voice. We don't try to bring out I. Too much of I will not be accepted. So you want to distance yourself from that. So, but I tell you, there is a debate of it. So you think of this one. If you are a feminist and writing for a feminist journal, there is nothing wrong. You can use I did that and that. But if you are writing for some other things, you have to see whether they like I or not. So they may not like it. So you see, and both are all right. Grammatically, there is no problem. Grammatically, there is no problem, but which is appropriate, you have to think. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Another participant, Anne Ronita Devi, wants to know, is there any word limitation in discussion and conclusion part?
Discussion. This is conclusion. Also, I tell you that conclusion should also be not too long. I told you about the introduction. Right? It is true in case of conclusion also. Okay, all that you are trying to establish and prove, that you are doing it in the content, in the middle. You are writing so many things to prove that. But after proving all that, you are writing conclusion. And that conclusion should not be just repetition of what you write. Okay? Generally, this conclusion, I can tell you that it should be whatever is your thing that you came out of the study, it should be able to link with the general. Okay? See, I am trying to say that this has been the case of tribals of Northeast India. So, on the basis of my study, I proved that tribals in Northeast India are more educated. But in conclusion, what you do is you link it with the general. General. So, in the rest of India, this one education standards of this tribals is very bad. But here it is. So, you are contrasting it and you are putting it. You are linking your particular study with the general and coming out with something substantial in the conclusion. But you are not going to repeat again and again. Okay? The only essential part you will talk about it. So sometimes you tell everything and again repeat again saying, no, it is thing. You are only concluding it. When you are concluding it again, don't bring some other aspects which you have not discussed. That is some other thing people do. You write everything and in conclusion you write some other thing which is not related to what you have discussed. So avoid that. So the conclusion should not be too long. They just as introduction should not be too long. Conclusion should also be not too long. It is something which satisfies ultimately. Okay. So avoid too long a conclusion. It can, in journal article 2-3 paras enough for conclusion, not more. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next two questions are same. One from Jamuna Devi and other from Dr. Manoj Das. Actually, they want to know the important properties of a good paper, good research paper.
Importance of?
Important properties.
Properties.
Properties in a good research paper.
No, this is what. See, the important, generally we should know the kind of papers we are. We write many kinds of things. We write poetry, we write for newspapers, we write for, tourism, on that we write. We write in social media and all that. All are writing something. But academic writing is different. Academic writing, when you are writing it, you are trying to establish something. Okay? You are trying to establish something. You are trying to prove something. You are trying to come out something with something new. You are you are creating knowledge. You are creating knowledge on the basis of your study. You have a thing through different methods you are doing study, and now on the basis of that you are coming out with something new of your own. which you are establishing it. So here the academic research article is something, it is not a literary piece. It is a piece which is based on objective study. Objective study of social reality, I think, or material reality. It is not something imaginative. You may write a very beautiful piece about the imaginary lover. That is all right for a literary piece. But when you are writing in a research article, you are writing on something which is which exists. Objectivity is very important thing here. Okay. Then your approach. It is not a subjective study. It is based on a scientific method that you have collected the data, and you are putting all that data in a particular way in which it is necessary. You are not putting it any way you like. There is certain methods which are used. You have to follow that. So also there are certain, you look at that within a particular theoretical frameworks. It is not a descriptive study of saying this happened here, that happened here. You are looking at it from a particular theoretical perspective. I think maybe a Dalit perspective, maybe a feminist perspective, or a postmodern perspective. You are looking at it and you see the kind of thing. And also the language. You may use certain kinds of words, which you may not use it in ordinary language. You may use the word structure, you may use the word mode of production, you may use the word patriarchy. All these things you may be using in a research articles. So these are the things. The research articles are for mature people. In a sense, they are for little more educated people. They are not for ordinary people. So you are basically interacting with the fellow intellectuals or scholars. So the standard is high. The language style will be different. The way that you can write is different. All these properties we should understand. So the academic articles, its style is different from other forms of writing, and that academic the properties we should understand. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. Actually, questions are flourishing in chat box in such a way that we cannot overcome it, but we have to stop in a particular point. Sometimes I feel that if I have the gadget of Doraemon, the time machine to stop time, then we can enjoy, and I can also enjoy your session. But I have to stop here, sir. So thank you very much, sir. And for the participants, if they wish to send mail to you, sir, that's why we have already shared your email address in chat box. They can send their queries to you, sir.